I'm Jeremy Moss. I represent Southfield, Lathrop Village, Beverly Hills, Bingham Farms, and Franklin. I was elected by my colleagues to serve as the House Democratic Whip this session. So Frank Underwood was the House Democratic Whip, to give you some context. I voted for the energy package because it was reasonable legislation. There are a few things, actually. The timing of this event is perfect. Because just yesterday, I joined with my colleagues in the House and colleagues over in the Senate to tackle legislation that deals directly with environmental protections for air, for water, and for land. And so I have the press release in my hand, which I can go through point by point. I know our topic is land, so I'm going to maybe delve into that a little bit deeper. But we are trying to get citizen control over the Department of Environmental Quality here in Michigan. That deserves a cheer. So I will tell you that the Department of Environmental Quality is the worst named department in Lansing because they don't care about environmental quality. Back before John Engler was governor, almost every aspect of our environmental protections had citizens' commissions that had oversight from, make sure that Lansing bureaucrats weren't making the wrong decision and siding with the wrong people in terms of our environmental policy in Michigan. He abolished those environmental protections in 1991. So we are taking this legislation to return environmental protection commissions for every aspect in Lansing. So House Bill 4200 was introduced by our colleague Stephanie Chang, who represents Detroit, and maybe some of you know her. She has the legislation that deals with improving the air quality here in Michigan and would restore the Air Pollution Control Commission to the DEQ. Another bill in the package is Senate Bill 156, which is the Senate counterpart to her bill. And then furthermore, we have water protections that have been introduced by State Senator Jim Ananich and State Representative Phil Phelps. Now, both Jim Ananich and Phil Phelps represent the community of Flint. If any community knows how much oversight is needed for the terrible decisions that are made by the Department of Environmental Quality, it is Flint. There's no question about it. So in my community, I took the legislation that was going to create a environmental protection citizen-driven commission for oil and gas drilling. So that's the land tie-in. So in my district, we had a developer that wanted to go to the corner of 9 Mile and Evergreen in Southfield to drill for oil. Now, everybody lives at the corner of 9 Mile and Evergreen in Southfield. And this particular area that he wanted to drill for oil was residentially zoned. So bad enough that it's an area of a densely populated area this developer from way up in Traverse City wanted to drill for oil, but it's a residentially zoned, highly populated area. So I introduced legislation to limit that kind of activity after there was a huge outcry from my community. And I've also introduced legislation, House Bill 4202 this time around, to have a citizen commission, to make sure that there are people from environmental protection agencies, that there are people who deal with geology, that there are people who deal with this type of oversight, so that the DEQ doesn't make decisions like this. Now let me tell you some terrible conflicting things that happen in environmental policy in Michigan. Number one, our community actually appealed this particular permit. Our community in Southfield said specifically, we don't want this type of activity in our community. Our city council actually made sure that it couldn't happen. So we appealed this decision. Now, the person that you appeal this decision to is the same person that makes the decision to begin with. So you can just tell there's an inherent conflict right there, which only furthermore shows why a citizens commission is needed to overrule those types of decisions. Problem number two is that the DEQ, their business model is predicated upon issuing these drilling permits because they're funded in part by the taxes on the drilling companies that get these permits. So it's kind of like, the fox guarding the hen house. So we have extreme problematic issues dealing with the Department of Environmental Quality that I know Robert is committed to resolving. I'm certainly committed to resolving because we had a public hearing. We brought the DEQ into Southfield. 1,000 people showed up, protested this decision, and quietly they decided to issue this permit anyways. So we got issues. We got issues here in the state of Michigan with environmental protections. We're not here to sugarcoat it. So it's important, and this is not a partisan spin, but it's important. If this is an issue that concerns everyone in this room, you contact your legislator and make sure that they know where you stand so that when they're up for election, they know how you'll vote. So I'll wrap it up there because I did see the wrap-up sign in the back. So thank you very much.